All right, Pittsburgh Sports Now, Duquesne Volleyball Preview continues with Coach Steve Opperman. Steve, just you can feel the energy in the gym, and that just means we're one step closer to the opener Friday. Just how do you feel that energy and connectivity is built throughout it all?
Yeah, it's been fun. This group from day one has that that drive about them. Very young team with five freshmen on the squad, but they've come in and just have definitely brought in energy of their own. But I think the energy started last spring with our kids returning, being in the gym, and just seeing where we ended off last year. Losing to Loyola in the semis, and then getting after it this past spring. So I think the focus and the drive is there. The energy definitely makes practice more enjoyable, makes it more competitive, and we keep I guess I want to say harp on them, but we keep telling them that the more they do that, the better things happen and the easier things become as well.
How much of that proof was tangible in last season and just that run you were able to build off of? Obviously, a lot of excited faces that builds energy and continuity as well.
Yeah, I think as we kind of got towards the middle of conference last year, we just kind of just put it all out on the floor. The kids were really starting to play for each other instead of worrying about individual accolades or those different kind of milestones, things like that. Once we just really focused in on, hey, I'm going to play as hard as I can for this teammate. Good things really started to happen. I think obviously it really came about in the A10 tournament. We going into last weekend, we're doing some nice things. Carly, tore ACL at George Washington the last weekend of regular season, and we were playing some really good volleyball at that point. Had to make some adjustments, and then we had to turn around after the last weekend of the season, and then play George Washington in the first round, the quarterfinals of the A10 tournament, and then took care of business there. I think surprised Loyola a little bit, just with the firepower we came out with when we played them in the semis, and just a couple plays here and there, just a little short. But the kids, returning, saw that. Like I said, they're just bringing that energy. It started, in the weight room as well. The kids have been training, throughout the summer, getting strong, doing those kinds of things, and you can definitely see it translate onto the floor right now.
As you continue to build this momentum forward, what have kind of been points of emphasis that you've been looking to key on to start the season?
It's just not being afraid to take a risk. Especially in practice when we're playing, we can't just go up and try and swing as hard as we can in every ball. Try a different shot. Hit a roll shot. Hit a cut shot. If we don't do that in practice, we're not going to be able to do it in a match. So we're just trying to let our kids play a little more freely, not to worry about, hey, we're in a drill right now and this drill is being scored. Well, I want my team to win, and all of them do. But if we don't win, it's not the end of the world. If I'm, it's match point or the drill point, so to speak. If I'm hitting a certain shot or trying to hit a shot, it's great that we're doing that. Because we're definitely willing to step up and challenge ourselves to be better players.
What's that balance for you? Playing freely, obviously, you play within system within that freely. Where do you strike that balance? And is that a group by group thing? Is it a feel thing?
I think part of it's a feel thing, and there's some players that are, I'd say, more mature than others, and players that can actually, I guess, do those skills maybe a little bit better. Everybody does a nice job in the gym. Somebody, we have kids that might be a little more skilled. Emmy, as an example, she was first team all conference player, and we might ask her to do things that we don't ask other players to do, just because we know that she can do that or she can handle it. And then we'll bring other players along a little bit more slowly till they get used to our system and used to what we're asking them to do.
You mentioned Emmy, and obviously the graphic has been out there for quite a bit. To see the leading returning player in kills be from Duquesne, what does that mean to you?
It's just she's put the work in. She's been playing year round. She plays outdoors in grass tournaments. She's a local kid, so she's here lifting throughout the whole summer. And it's just like one of those things where it's like, volleyball is what I love. And I'm going to try and do everything I can to continue to get better out on the floor. And that takes her teammates. Her teammates are doing really nice things around her, and putting balls away, blocking, doing whatever. That helps sometimes free her up. She knows that she has a target on her back this year, that people are going to be, keying on her a little bit more. And so that's where, hey, we've got to try a few different things now to to just bring your game even more well-rounded than it is already.
Who so far, obviously returners new, there's a big mix. Who do you think, or what do you think has stood out so far?
I just think the way the team chemistry is so far. Even though we played an exhibition at Akron last weekend, we started out a little timid, but after we got going, it felt like we were in practice. It doesn't matter who's on the court, the energy's there. The commitment to getting after it, is there as well. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that our kids have drawn on is that we just compete, and we just communicate, we connect, and we try and get after it, every time that we're in the gym.
How do you think they can learn from those moments, knowing that the switch didn't flip, but once it did, they figured it out and it was off to the races?
Yeah, it's just like, I don't know, for the younger kids, it's just my first time wearing a Duquesne uniform and playing, and there are five freshmen and a graduate transfer, so six of our 19 players are kind of like new to our program. But I think after they got settled in, things are good, and now that we've got that out of the way, I think that it's just going to be second nature for the rest of everybody. A week from Friday, things will actually matter. We have another exhibition, this Friday against Cleveland State, and so hopefully, we will use what we've been doing in practice and let that translate on the floor this Friday.
Had a chance earlier to talk to a couple of seniors. Obviously, they've been through peaks and valleys with this program. Just how special has it been just seeing their growth as well as this team's growth simultaneously?
Yeah, the seniors have done a great job, especially Chloe and Jordan, and not leaving Kylie out. Kylie's a transfer who got here last year, so she's this is year 2 for her with our program. But with Jordan and Chloe, they've been 3-year starters, and they'll be 4-year starters for us this year too. They've been through the hard times. Their first couple years, we were just injury after injury after injury, and we get close, and we just couldn't finish because, this match we had these 2 people out, and this match we had this one. We had one weekend, I think it was their freshman year, that we didn't even compete because we only had 8 healthy bodies. Penn was gracious enough to say, hey, don't worry about coming, this weekend. We'll figure things out, but. It took a toll on us, but we figured it out. I think they stuck with our plan, so to speak, and last year was an indication of what we knew we could do.
We've talked so much about the standards. How important is it you're seeing it and they're starting to realize that standard has been built day by day? It's already started.
Yeah, I think that they've noticed that, they have to put the work in, and we've try to isolate, from one year to the next where our deficiencies were. What can we do better? There's certain things that everybody needs to do better, but how can we score more points? We've been working on those different kinds of things there. The kids have embraced that, and we're trying to focus on those areas that may give us an advantage here or there. Maybe you're playing against a team that's physically better than you, or on paper, hey, we shouldn't be beating this team, but because of what we're doing in our gym and how we're focusing on certain aspects of the game, it's allowing us to compete at a high level.
Have to ask you on a more personal note. There's the milestone watch, but I'm not going to ask you about the milestone watch about approaching the win total. But what I am going to ask you about is, as you continue on, just the sense of pride you have in wearing the Duquesne uniform, knowing that you're growing with them on the daily, what that means to you.
Yeah, it's been a great ride here so far. This is the start of year 29, and I never would have thought that I would have been here, for 29 years. You don't see that in coaching anymore. Coaches just don't stay at one school for a long period of time, and the majority of those coaches have retired. We've done some really nice things over the years. We've had players that have built our program, and at one point had the second longest run of qualifying for the A10 tournament behind Dayton, and some things happened, but I think we're getting ready to get back on track. It's just, it's you're here for, the right reasons. We care, not just myself and my staff, about our athletes as people first and as volleyball players second. We like to see the development of the overall student athlete here, and it's fun when you run into a player 5 years later and you're still in touch. I just ran into Allison Foch's parents this past weekend. They came to watch us play at Akron and haven't seen them in a while, and at least for me, I enjoy those memories, that you have connections with those people. Allison finished playing here, 12 or 13 years ago, and we still have that commitment from those kind of people to our program, and that's what's the exciting part of being a part of our program here at Duquesne.
Wrapping it up with this season's team, what do you think it will take for this team to be successful?
I think we just learn from our mistakes early. We like I said, we have a young team, and we've got a couple players that are injured right now. So I think we're down to 13 players right now. But as long as we build, week to week, and just make sure our focus is getting prepared for conference. That's where that all matters for everybody. There are teams that are preparing for preseason as well. We are too, but our emphasis is our preseason is getting us ready for conference play. And if we can continue to do good things, learn from our mistakes, be aggressive, and be able to compete and go after it, I think then that will translate when we get to conference.